Are girls still doing those duck lip?
I don't
lip
see it
selfies?
too often. You know what else kind of died off is like the dog face filter too.
Oh,
Remember?
the tongue would go
that.
out. Yeah.
I don't see those anymore, and I don't see a lot of duck lips.
I've seen only a couple duck selfie girls, but it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare now. It used to be a thing, remember?
I skipped that phase.
I'm glad you skipped that phase.
Yeah.
No one looks great with the duck lip selfies.
It didn't age well.
The best are the duck lip selfies with like the really, really overfilled lips. And I'm like, they already looked big. Like you don't need to extra duck it, you know? All right. Let's do this. Podcast time. It's Monday. It's Labor Day.
Oh, yeah.
And for us, Labor Day means more work.
Yes.
That's how we do it.
Heck yeah.
Show them how to labor. So.
No one labors better than us.
No, laboring all day. So, trying to deliver this baby for 22 years. All right, guys. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Today is Labor Day. We are excited, yes, to get hard to work and labor for you on this podcast. And which is funny because this podcast is about balance.
I don't see the correlation, but
you don't see the correlation of Labor Day
understand.
being like a day off and we're working and we have, our balance ways in the work department.
I guess you can maneuver
department.
it like that, I suppose. That's a stretch, though. But
is it? Okay.
It's okay.
I'm reaching here.
Maybe I'm just, my mind isn't as evolved and I don't comprehend it.
No, I feel like it's funny because
brain.
people will say you're not balanced because you do shows all the time, but then also I'm not balanced because I work all the time. And then, but we kind of live our life. So it's like Labor Day, but we're supposed to have a day off, but we don't.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
I don't understand why people don't say I'm balanced. Like, have you seen what I can do in heels? Like, that's some balance.
You do balance. You do balance.
I can balance on my hands. Can you balance on your hands? I don't know.
Can't. I saw you crawl into a car once on your hands.
Yeah, that's some balance right
legs
there.
First.
That's balance.
Do you remember that? You walked into the car on a handstand, legs first, and then some guy was walking by and he was screaming. Or he was like, whoa, what is that? That was pretty funny. So these random intro podcasts are my favorite.
Me too.
I'm just going to listen to intros of our podcast for the next
we should do an intro compilation
That'd
at some
be fun.
point and then just make it one podcast.
There you go.
For the week we get lazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Lazy week.
Oh, but we err on the side of working hard, so we don't have that balance.
Exactly.
So it's never going to come.
True.
So anyway, first off, got to address this shirt here. It's pretty dope. It says, be yourself. Nobody likes you anyways.
I can relate to that.
So good.
I can relate.
I love it. This is a Kimber gift. This is cool, right?
Yeah, I love it.
It's fun. So
It is fun.
I know. It's cool.
Your style is definitely outshining mine lately. I used to be the one that was, I went all out with the style, but not so much anymore.
I decided to do this like podcast shirt thing. So I try to find shirts for the podcast, and I usually only wear them once. But it's a tax write-off, so it's good because I do wear them for work, and then I throw them. I just give them away or something.
Don't give that one away. That one's great.
This one I'm gonna keep.
Yes.
It'll probably end up in Kimber's closet though.
Okay.
So yeah. So okay, we're talking about balance, not handstand balance, but actual life balance.
Life balance in regards to competing and life in general, because there's a lot that goes into it, and I think it's a word that's kind of lost its meaning in a way. And I think it's a word that people use as an excuse to go all out in the off season.
Yeah.
So how do you personally define balance?
That's a good question. I think it's highly, here's the thing. It's highly based on the goal, on the real goal. So is my real goal to still be one of the best trainers in the world? And it is, right? So therefore that determines how much balance I'm allotted. Right? If my real goal was, okay, I'm actually trying to retire, then the balance would be allotted greater in the rest department, right? But you have to first, I feel like you have to first look at what's the real goal. And there's this saying, I say, and it is, choose your discomfort or your discomfort will choose you. Okay? And what that basically means is, and this is something I kind of live by, what that basically means is there's no getting away from discomfort. And we have to accept that. If you want to have this easy life that's super comfortable, you're going to end up uncomfortable, okay? Because look at the guy who's living that easy life that's super comfortable. What is he doing? Right? Let's just say He's barely working. He's whatever. He's at the beach all day long. Maybe he's whatever he's doing. He's on the internet all day long, whatever the case may be. And he's not working that much, right? So what's his discomfort in relation to that, right? His discomfort in relation to that, he's probably living at his mom's house, some crappy apartment. And his discomfort is like, man, I'm single. I'm living at my mom's house still. I haven't done anything with my life, but he has the comfort, right, of the other part of it. So your discomfort is going to choose you, whether you choose it or not. So another example would be, okay, I'm not going to follow my diet at all because I want ultimate balance, right? Because I want to be just super comfortable. So what happens in that scenario? Okay, I'm not following my diet at all. I gained 20 pounds, 30 pounds, and now I'm super uncomfortable with this 20, 30 pounds, right? So your discomfort will choose you whether you choose it or not. So choose your discomfort. Don't let your discomfort choose you. So in my scenario, yeah, the discomfort is I work a lot every day. I don't know the last time I didn't, at least have a day on doing emails or whatever, which is fine. I choose my discomfort because if I don't, the opposite end of that is I'm going to be back in the gym, personal training 7 days a week, right? Which is cool. I liked it, but it wasn't the most comfortable I could be, right? So I'm choosing my discomfort for the lesser of the two for the best balance for me, right? So you have to look at what's the balance that you're trying to achieve. What's a discomfort threshold that you're willing to endure to not go into the other discomfort that is probably greater than the discomfort of actually doing the work, right? So that's a deep one, right? Deep one for you, but I think it's relevant though, right? And it's like, it's a real thing because I think that a lot of times people will say the balance thing and they'll talk about, food and not eating right, or you sacrifice too much with your diet, especially you. They'll say it a lot about, oh, she's always on prep. I couldn't live like that. No. She's choosing her discomfort, right? Her discomfort is not competing at all. Her discomfort is not doing, being competition ready and like doing shows, like multiple shows a year. That's uncomfortable for you. You like doing shows. So you're choosing your discomfort, right? You're choosing your balance. So I don't know. I think that's the first thing we have to look at.
Right. Exactly. I think like a lot of people don't even realize like how, I guess, in a way, I do have quite a bit of balance, I would say. For example, if somebody asks me, like, what do I like to do for fun, you might be surprised that it's pretty, like, mundane things, It's like going grocery shopping and going to the clearance section and finding good deals, watching Netflix documentary. Like, you might think that, like, for someone like myself, I would want to do something like skydiving or something crazy. But no, it's really just, like, average stuff is what I honestly like to do for fun. And here's why. I feel like my life is so exciting and full of adrenaline and just, all the feels because I compete a lot. I travel a lot. I do seminars a lot. I have a cool life where I can do that and, experience all these new places and meet new people that like whenever I have my free time, I just like to chill. Like, I really just like to chill because for me, if I continue to live that exciting life and then I did the exciting stuff like on days that I'm off, for me, that would be like a bit overwhelming, So I like to have what I like to call do nothing days, which I am still doing stuff. Like, I'm still working out and stuff like that. But like where I'm just like chilling at home, just like a me day, like where no one's going to look at me. Like, stop looking at me. Don't look at me. You know what I mean? Because it's just, I if I'm around too many people for too long and I travel too much within the span of a month, I will get overwhelmed and I will just be like, I just need a day just to do nothing, So I know you're not like that because you are a busy bee. Like, what are they, a type A personality? You always got to be,
unfortunately,
doing something busy. For me, I enjoy like days where I'm, still productive, but in a different way. Like maybe doing some housework or just going grocery shopping or, just having my me time. And then, the exciting thing is I get to compete and I get to travel and that's fun. So it's a good balance for me.
Yeah. I like that. I like that you're, and I think everyone just has to determine their own balance, but also just, look at their goals and what the end outcome that they want from that. I think that, the other thing too is that we as a society like come up with this norm, but it's whatever your norm is, right? Whatever society's norm is. And we try to pull everyone else into that because it's comfortable, because we're used to it. And we say, oh, you're living unbalanced. You need to live like my balance, because my idea of balance is this, and your idea of balance is something different, but you're wrong.
Yeah.
Right. that's the thing. And so people will see these extremes and be like, oh, that's just so much. I'm like, well, I'm kind of happy with it. It's cool. Like I try to take Sundays and do like as little as possible. There's always something that you have to do. We have a lot of clients, something always going to come up, but it's a pretty minimal day for me. And so I try to do that. And I try to spend that day like just a Kimber day with me and her, and just like doing something. We go to church, work out, like our food, like it's like a whole thing. And so that day really helps me throughout the whole week to like try to really
recharge.
Yeah, exactly.
Like just like filling up the battery so you can be social and happy and friendly again.
Yeah, and I feel like if I have too many disruptions on that Sunday, and I just need the Sunday, and I just have too many disruptions on that Sunday, then it accumulates, and it feels like you're accumulating days and days and days. So that's why I hate like Sunday shows. Sunday shows are the worst, and it's like you'll see it a lot more overseas than you do here. But there's a lot of Sunday shows overseas.
Arnold Classic UK Sunday.
It's there's a lot of those. It's just, especially the last like few years, it's been more Sundays, like the last couple years really. And I know there's like a difference on venues. On the Arnold UK, that's not the scenario. It's just a big show, so it's like multiple days. But a lot of the like promoters in other areas, you'll get it's usually a little bit lower cost to rent the venue on a Sunday, and they're trying to get a nicer venue, so they'll do it on Sunday, that type of thing. So that's the reasoning why you get some of these Sunday shows. It's just cost effective, But it's definitely tough when you have those accumulated days. So I do get it too. So my balance is that. That's where my line is there. Maybe a Sunday show here and there, but like every week when I was running into those, like in Europe, I was like, man, this is hard, because you have people checking in at their 8 a.m., which is my like whatever a.m. Usually like 12 a.m., 4 a.m., depending on what it is on their show days and stuff. So that becomes a little tough. So that's like where my line is for me. And I'm happy pretty much any other way past that. But I've kind of over the years found what was the best for me. I used to just work, and then I'd be so tired and exhausted that I wouldn't want to do it.
Right.
And so, so for me, that's where it's at. And when I was in prep mode, when I was like doing shows, I was able to stay in the zone for a very long time. I would do a cluster of shows. That's what worked for me. So I would do, my prep would be like 16 weeks for the first show, and then I would stay in shape for like an additional 3 to 4 months. And so I would do like a cluster of shows for that 30 weeks or so. So I would be like, first show, work hard, 16 weeks, perfect diet, perfect everything, cardio, all that. And then try to kind of progress to the next show and try to do 3 months, 4 months of shows, and do as like many as I could and try to improve on each one if I was there. But I was pretty close to like where I needed to be. And so I didn't need to make like huge improvements from show to show. But if you do need to make huge improvements from show to show, I don't think that's the right method. I think if you're you do a show and they say you need to be a lot bigger, whatever, I think that you should take some time after that show and then make some improvements and then go again. And then we go into the balance season right after that. And that's where I think where this topic probably needs to go.
Yeah.
Balance in the off season, right?
Yeah. Because it's like the people that, go way too overboard in the off season are kind of like the all or nothing people, right? Like either they're on or they're off. There's no in between. And I feel like the off season should be like that in between time, right? You're still trying to keep in shape, stay healthy, eat healthy foods, still get your workouts in, but maybe not to the extent as like active prep, right? Whereas some people think of the in season, off season as like off and on, like you're either on or you're off, but there's no in between. So like they take the opportunity of off season to, really just go overboard, and it doesn't even matter because they're not prepping currently. They're just, off season. Yeah. And that's an off season, not an improvement season. There's a big difference.
Yeah. And I think that's where the choose your discomfort comes into play, right? Because you never see a girl who puts on, 25 pounds, 30 pounds in the off season and says, oh, I'm really glad I put on these 25, 30 pounds, right? They're uncomfortable at those 30 pounds. And they're like, oh, I really ruined my off season. I really went too far. It's going to take so much work to get it off now. I lost all that hard work. Like it's a whole thing of once they reach that point. And, I've seen it happen at least 100 times in my career where someone went too far in the off season. Maybe they just disappeared from their coach. They stopped checking in. They put on a ton of weight and they're like, okay, now let's get it off. And I'm like, okay, cool. You did this in 2 months. So you dieted for 8 months, then you put it back on in 6 weeks, 2 months. You have not fully been through the process of reversing and getting your metabolism fully corrected and maybe hormonally fully corrected to the point where it's just going to now fall off. So now you're up heavier than when you originally started, and you're in a less likely place to lose body fat at the same rate you were losing it before. So now it's harder and you're heavier, and now you're not feeling as great. And again, choose your discomfort, because your discomfort will choose you. And this is exactly what happens in these off seasons with no balance, right? So the discomfort for the person, the theoretical person I'm talking about is, okay, I could have been in the middle. I could have been a little cleaner and still paid attention and maybe only put on 15 pounds. Maybe if you're a taller girl, 20 pounds or something, right? I think just to get some clarification, if you're on a long season, I think 12% above your stage weight's like very realistic, That means if you're 100 pounds on stage, you'd be 12 pounds up. If you're 150 pounds on stage, you're 18 pounds up. I think that's pretty realistic. So maybe, you chose the discomfort of eating somewhat clean, not eating everything you saw and going donut crazy for, 3 days after the shows, whatever, right? So yeah, you chose the discomfort of sticking to that balance, a little bit leaning on the I want to stay lean side. That's the discomfort there. And then your end result is a lot higher level or a lot less uncomfortable place at the end result of staying a little bit cleaner in the off season and going through the discomfort of eating a little bit cleaner. But I'll promise you this, the discomfort of being 30 pounds over stage weight is way more than the discomfort of eating a little bit less and a little bit cleaner in that in-between period. I'll promise you that. As a coach, I've seen it so many times, and it's just, it's sad because we always talk about it, but there is balance, and then there's reality of things too. So, like when we talk about people who just go off the walls and they have no balance, and it's important, balance is not eating nothing but tilapia and asparagus for 16 weeks and then eating anything you want in the off season. That's also not balance, like balance is the in between of those two, right? Like
it's like a teeter-totter, right?
Yeah.
If you go all like, just super strict with that asparagus and tilapia, and kind of like weighs down the teeter-totter in the in-season. And then whenever the opposite, you go way off in the off-season, it just, it's not level. So
yeah,
I like to think of it like that, like a literal balance, like teeter-totter.
What's funny is I think of maybe I underestimate how I deliver prep, right? And because I was talking to someone here the other day, and she'll know who she is when she watches this. and she was talking about, she was like, yeah, I can't do, she was like talking about doing simple things in life, like going to like the DMV and going to just like simple things in life. And she was like, yeah, I'm just going to wait till after the show. And I was like, what is it about the show that's taking so much of your life? Like, I don't understand. What's so different about you competing that you can't even do basic functions in the world, I'm like, let's break it down. What do you do? Okay, so when you are not in season, how much time do you spend in the gym working out? She's like, I lift for like an hour. I said, okay, and when you're in season, how long do you lift for? She's like, an hour and 10. I'm like, okay, so maybe 10 minutes difference of you lifting versus you lifting off season and in season. It's the same, right? How much cardio, what's the cardio difference? And she was doing like 40 minutes of cardio. She's like, well, I do like 40 minutes right now because she's getting closer to her show, like 5 days a week right now. I said, and then when you're in season, how much do you do? She's like 15 minutes pretty much every day. I'm like, okay, so 25 minutes. So we're talking about 25 to 30 minutes extra in your day, 25 to 35 minutes extra in your day is keeping you from living your life. I'm like, what's the difference of like your food prep? Are you still like kind of cooking foods and prepping foods and whatever? She's like, yeah, but I'll eat out like once. Okay. So I'm like, okay, so you're prepping food 1 day, 2 days a week. And then you're in your off season, you're prepping food pretty much 2 days a week, just maybe a little bit less. Yeah. She's like, yeah. I'm like, so the timing we're talking about here accumulated over 6 days, like 6 days was like 30 minutes times 6, like 180 minutes is keeping you from living your life. And now you're like, when the off season comes around, the relief of, I can do everything now. And I'm like, no, you could have done everything the whole time. And that's where I think people get really into this this cyclical cycle, right? Because they're not looking at it like, it's like only focus is this, and then it's like freedom after this. Versus like if you looked at the show and we're like, this is pretty normal life. I'm just eating clean. I have a lot of options like you do. Like you mix your sauces and different proteins or whatever. And then you go into in season or off season, you're just doing a little bit less cardio. Like I just don't see it. I just don't see the big giant difference between the two, you know? And it's so minimal that I don't see why people can't live balanced, because it is so minimal. And if you look at it that way and you look at it like, okay, I'm just moving a little bit more and eating a little bit less, but it's the same foods I was eating all along anyway, so it's not that big of a difference. I don't think you run into this issue with even trying to really find balance. I think that it's like kind of inherently there because it isn't that much different. You know, it's not that much different. Like me, I'm kind of just working out to be fit right now. And I'm like, oh, I just want to stay fit, sunny, healthy, you know, be relatively lean. But for me to do prep, it really wouldn't be that much different. I just track my foods, be a little bit different, and maybe work out a little bit harder. But it's not like, and add a little bit of cardio, right? It's not that much different than what I'm already doing. That's what I think people need to really like look at and take a step back and be like, okay, how do I live balanced? Like I'm already kind of doing it. I'm just looking at it like it's such a task, like the show prep. Like people look at it like, oh, this daunting task. You know? And I'm like, it's not that much crazy. What are you saying you wouldn't do? Like, what wouldn't you do if you weren't doing a show? You're just not going to work out and eat whatever you want? Like, is that the life you want to live?
Right.
Is that the balance you strive for? So I don't know. It's weird to me, this whole balance thing, because I just feel like you're pretty close to there already, you know? I don't know. Am I crazy with that?
No, I'm right on the same page as you. I think a lot of times people just overthink it and think that they're not able to do certain things or go to a fun event if they get asked to just because they're in prep. And that's not the case. There's so many ways around it. It's like, it shouldn't really prevent you from living your normal everyday life. Just a little extra effort and a little less food sometimes, but like it's not that serious.
Yeah.
And that's so crazy for me to say, but it's not that serious. You can still live a normal life. It's not going to hinder you that much, or it shouldn't anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that balance can be broken up into 3 different categories: physical, mental, and family, social / work. Physical, being balanced physically kind of goes into what we were talking about. Like, are you going to stay lean in the off season and stay close to your stage weight, or are you going to put on so much weight that it doesn't even look like you were never an athlete, right? So I think it's important to find physical balance with like the off season. Just know that, you might be a little bit softer, but you shouldn't get to the point where no one ever knew you competed before. Yeah. I see that a lot, and it's kind of sad. Like a competitor there that was, that looked great on stage, and then you see them in their off season and it doesn't even look like they work out or have ever worked out. And I'm just like, whoa, it's crazy. So that, I guess, would be an example of bad balance physically between the in season, off season. I mean, I'm not the best example because I know I stay quite lean, but I don't think you would know the difference if I'm prepping for a show or not. And I'm not saying everyone's like that, but you should at least look like you work out, you should still be able to wear a crop top and feel comfortable in it, and wear a bikini, and you shouldn't feel like that shame that a lot of girls do when they're in the off season and they don't even want to wear a tank top because they put on so much weight, right?
Yeah.
That's never a good thing. Moving on to mental balance, you got to ask yourself, are you like happy? Are you overwhelmed? Are you too stressed out? Kind of goes into what we were just talking about, how you can still live a normal life. And a lot of people overthink it, but some people just work themselves up so they're so stressed, and maybe they're, focusing so much on, their show that's all they can think about, and they obsess over it. And it's okay to be obsessed, but I would say if you're going to, it's not a bad thing to obsess over it, I would say. But I guess I'm using this as an example, like more towards a number placement. Like, I gotta win. And that's all you can think about, to where you overwhelm yourself in your mind. Even for me, sometimes I have to be like, you know what? I'm a little stressed. I've been traveling a lot, but at the end of the day, it's not that serious. Before I go on stage, if I find myself being too nervous, I got to be like, it's not that serious. Okay. you know, so just if you have to calm yourself down like that, but some people can drag that feeling throughout several weeks, right? And then maybe it kind of just stresses them out. And I don't think that's a good balance at all. I think it's nice to realize whenever you have adrenaline and use it to your advantage, but don't let it get to you so much to where you're just overwhelmed with it, you know? And then the third category I would like to break this up into is family, social, and work. Are you neglecting the people that are in your life because you're, again, overwhelming yourself thinking you can't hang out with somebody because you're on prep? Is your relationship still good with your friends and family or loved ones? And is your work suffering as well? Depending on, I guess, what job you work, it can definitely take away from your job if you let it, you know. And again, this goes back to what you were just saying, like, it doesn't have to be that much different at all, but some people will make it out to be that way. Yeah. So it's just important to realize these things and to make sure you're good and balanced. So, I mean, I gave my example of how I like to balance out my exciting life. You know, I do some really, really exciting things. Like I compete a lot and I travel a lot and I meet a whole bunch of people. That's my excitement that I get. And then I also like the opposite, my relaxing, do nothing days where I just go to the gym in my pajamas. I don't wear makeup. I wear glasses and my hair in a sloppy bun. And I'm just like, I just give out, don't look at me vibes. Like, don't even look at me.
You're good at giving out good, don't look at me vibes. Yeah. I will say this. I've been working out with Ashley in gyms for, like continuously for what, 5 years now? Like continuously 4 years, something like that. And no one ever comes up to Ashley to like,
I don't look friendly.
Yeah. But it's funny because it's the strangest thing. Like they almost like avoid you. It's so funny.
I don't know. I must look really mean. And I train with Sam a lot too. And sometimes we go to Planet Fitness. Every single time they will go up to Sam and talk or ask her a question. Never once has it been me.
It's so crazy.
It's always like that. I'm like I don't know. I'm not that mean though.
No, you're not. It's really funny though. Cause you know, I've gone to the gym with, you know, hundreds of people, but girls, like, especially, you know, attractive girls, like guys will come up and try to like chat with them all the time. And I'm like, I've never seen a guy ever come up to you. And if anything, they come up to me to like ask permission to talk to you, which is so weird. It's so weird to be like,
are you my bodyguard or something?
It's so weird because they'll be like I'll be right next to her. She has no headphones on, but they'll be like, hey, Adam, can I take a picture with Ashley? And I'm like, I'm not Ashley. Ask Ashley. Ask Ashley. That's so funny. That's the funny ones when those happen.
Right. Yeah.
It's respectful, but I get it. But it is funny.
I mean, everyone goes up to you. I guess you just look really friendly. But not even guys, but girls too. Like they'll always go to somebody else that I'm with, but they'll never like ask me anything. I mean, I don't really care either way. But I'm just like, dang, maybe I'm just like, I look mean, unapproachable. I don't know. Maybe I look like I bite. I don't know. Or maybe people actually do, but I'm so like oblivious. I'm very oblivious sometimes. I'll be walking and if somebody says something, I probably won't even notice. Like I don't notice what's going on. Maybe that's, I don't know. I don't.
You do look down a lot too now lately because your eye injury.
It's the eye, and I'm just going to address this right now because you brought it up. Because a lot of people will say it looks like you're sleeping, and it's like, no. When I look down, that's the only way. I don't see double, so you'll find me going like this a lot. But no, I'm not sleeping. I'm awake. Even like I went to an athlete check-in. I think it was like at Toronto. So when they're doing the athlete check-in, you know, we're waiting to get our numbers called and they're giving us the whole spiel, like be here backstage, blah, blah, and they give me, you know, the information. And when they called my name, the guy was like, I saw you sleeping back there. And I'm like, I wasn't sleeping. I was just... It's the only way I don't see double. Sorry. So it's like I'm always looking down and people think I'm just like ignoring them or just sleeping. So I'm very awake, just so you know. So
there you go.
There you go.
Do you you said you work out in your pajamas too?
Yeah, on my do nothing days. Yeah.
Do you?
Sometimes, I'll sleep in something and then just do cardio in it the next day. Yeah. Those are the do nothing days.
I like do nothing days though too.
Yeah, nice. It's just, you know, sloppy bun, wear my glasses. I look unrecognizable, just doing my own thing, maybe fold some laundry later, you know. Those are good days to have. Kind of it balances out the excitement.
Keyword there, the balance.
It balances out the excitement.
That's funny. You know what? I think it's just as being a guy, it's just so much easier. You just go to the gym with whatever you're like. There's, you throw in a hat and you're just fine. You never have to worry about it. Makeup, none of that. You guys have it a lot
You
rougher
still wear your
than us.
sunscreen though? You better be wearing.
You know what? I did this weekend. I was sunscreen. Yeah.
I saw your snaps and I was about to message you just to make sure that you were.
I got a farmer's.
No.
I got a farmer's tan. It's so embarrassing.
You've always had a farmer's tan.
I know.
Because you never wear tanks.
I know. I haven't worn a tank for like 5 years. But look at this tan line. Look how bad that is.
It's
so embarrassing.
The last time you were seen in a tank was we were flexing in a photo in Denver.
I have it. Yeah, Vital. We're at Vital Fit. It's not even called Vital Fitness anymore. And I have it somewhere. It was 2017. That was like the last time.
That was the last time we saw him in a tank. I've never saw you in shorts though.
No.
Nope.
I wore them some the other day. It was crazy.
Whoa.
I know.
I probably wouldn't have recognized you.
I know. I felt like I was in a photo shoot, like for like a naughty magazine. My ankles were showing.
Did you like shave your legs and everything? Get all prepared?
No, it wasn't that. That's edition number 2.
Okay.
My skin just melted in the sun. It was
oh gosh.
Everything sounds like vampire ankles.
Oh, man. Yeah, they haven't been exposed to light. Start to steam.
So funny. So what else we have on this balance stuff?
Yeah,
Ashley?
so we're talked about different types of balance, but I think we should now talk a little bit about how to create more balance for those that are, struggling in that department. So I would say don't give into the idea that you've got to eat food just because you can in the off season. It's not. I find a lot of people do that. They think like, well, it's the off season. Let me just eat whatever I want while I can, even if they don't necessarily are hungry. It's just like a better get it in while I can kind of mentality. People do that with cheat meals too, right? Yeah. They'll be like, oh, my coach said I can have whatever I want to eat for a whole day. So they just overdo it big time because they're like, I don't know when I'll get another one of these days again. So I might as well get everything in, even if they're not hungry. They just keep going because they don't know when it's coming back, I guess. And it's kind of a funny way to think because it's like, yeah, the food's always going to be there. Yeah. You can have it. But I think that, when you have that kind of mindset, it really kind of sets you up for a really bad off season. We don't want that.
No, I think that's the biggest, probably the biggest thing is like right after the show, it's like freedom and then they just go. And then that's when all the damage is done. Because people don't understand that when you're in this state after the show, like the calories are different after the show. And it's like, people are gonna be like, that's stupid. That's not how it works. And I'm like, it isn't, but it's weird. We can't explain what happens. Right. And nutrition scientists will light me up for this one. Right. But something happens after the show when you're so adapted and hormonally you're down, when you're dieting that hard, your thyroid hormone output is lower, testosterone's probably lower. Like everything's like just adapted to these, lower calories, is higher cardio. You're super susceptible to putting on body fat. And the calories don't seem to really make sense. You're like, I only went over 2,000 calories. How did I gain 5 pounds? How did I gain, 15 pounds in a week? And we're like, some of that was you just filling out and loading up your glycogen 100%. But, people have done scans on this, and this is something that Dr. Jacob Wilson was talking about too. He's like, don't tell me you can't gain 20 pounds in 2 weeks, because I've seen it, like seen body fat gained in like 2 pounds in 2 weeks when the calories don't line up. He's like, don't tell me it's not happening, because I've seen it, and I've seen it too, and you can't explain it. When you're, super researched and like you're studied in this stuff, it doesn't make sense. Sometimes you're like, okay, she's eating 1,000 calories over her maintenance calories per day, right? So in that scenario, she's going to gain 2 pounds a week, 7,000 calories extra per week, right? No big deal. Over the course of a month, she gains, 8 pounds of body fat. No big deal. We'll lose that in the course of the next month, right? But it's not like that. It's like she puts on, 15 pounds of fat, and you're like, what? How did that even happen? She's like, I wasn't that high above my calories. It's like, you're not in the same state as you were when you first started prep. Something's changing, hormonally. Your body's adapted. Just everything is just different at that stage, and you're just really susceptible to gaining body fat. And I don't think they're ever going to fully figure out why it happens and why it happens so quickly, because the people you'd have to study on that would have to purposely gain body fat after the show, and then they'd have to be in the state of show prep to even be tested, right? They're going to test people who are, dieting for a few weeks, and then, see after. They're not going to see the real the real deal of a, bodybuilder or a bikini girl who's lost 30 pounds to get ready for a show, and then right after it puts on 30 back. Like it's a hard thing to really look up. But what I can tell you is I see it happen all the time. And, so working on your balance, going from your show and balance of your life from showtime to right after showtime, that most important month, that first 6 weeks is just so important in the balance part of it. So I would say the discomfort, right, that we talked about, like let that be a motivating factor for you, at least in the initial part of that. Because that's always a motivating factor for me, which is I live kind of in a paranoid state, which is not the healthiest thing, but every guy who's done great things really does. And I find this to be a common thing. I looked it up. Every businessman lives paranoid that his business is going to go out. So he's always striving to make sure it's still going, right? That type of thing. Or paranoid of his rivals trying to take over, right? And they're always doing it to stay ahead of the rival, right? So it's like greatness, pushes greatness. And I've always found myself being so competitive that, when I was smaller, it was like there's guys in Colorado and I was just like, I just want to beat them, but they made me better, right?
Yeah.
They make you push harder, right? Your greatest rivals makes you push harder. So finding that balance for me, it was, okay, this is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm willing to accept. At a certain stage, I did find, my family was suffering from it. Like I didn't see my mom that much, wasn't calling her that much. My relationships were suffering because I worked too much, Even when I saw my mom this weekend and she was pulling me aside. She's like, make sure to give her some time, okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm trying, Mom. Trying to do better, give her time. She's talking about give her. She's like, make sure you give her time. And I was like, so it's it's one of those things where you have to find the goal, right? And let's say my life goal, right? My life goal is, make sure I have enough time don't take away too much time from my family, from Kimber. And that's going to take a little bit away from my work time, right? Can't just work guns blazing all day, every day for the rest of your life, or else my discomfort, right? Your life will choose your discomfort. I'll have family doesn't talk to me and Kimberless, right? that's the discomfort there. Is the discomfort of that scenario worth me working guns blazing? No, it's not, right? So you have to find, okay, that's the discomfort that will find me if I don't seek the discomfort of not working guns blazing, right? So I need to find the middle of that. Where's everything happiest, where I'm still doing everything I want to do, and that's how you kind of come up with that. So you got to identify, I think, the problem, and you got to identify the adaptation of what's going to happen in your life if you don't do that, and then find the middle ground. I think that's an important thing to really look at.
Yeah, I'm also quite motivated by fear as well.
Yeah, you are.
It's like, it's just, I don't want anybody to gain ground on me or anything. So I'm like, I got to be on the top of my game all the time. But I think that can be a helpful trait. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah. So going back, to what we were talking about, overdoing it after your show's over with or in the off season, just realize too that your taste buds are way, way ahead of your stomach, if that makes sense. You can want more taste, but you're full. So don't listen to your taste buds, listen to your hunger cues, and just stop when you're full. So I think another helpful tip would be just to plan ahead and set yourself up for success. Prepare. So, with balance and with off season, any time that you're not prepared, you're likely not going to have the best result if you just think of things on the fly. So having things around to kind of keep you in check and to keep you motivated in the off season and keep you happy can be very helpful. Just plan ahead. I think that's a general great tip for anything, basically. Just always plan ahead. And another thing is to have another goal in mind for after a show so you don't feel lost. I think a lot of times people, when they have that feeling like, okay, the show's over, now what? And then it's a little depressing sometimes, right? If they don't have anything to work for, if they don't have a specific date in mind. So you can definitely set up shoots or whatever, or if there's a fun event, make that your goal. But I think another cool thing you can do is and I've thought about this as well, in the off season, I know it can be a little boring sometimes because there's no shows. You're just not competing at that moment. And, although you go to the gym for an hour a day, maybe do some cardio, maybe it's still not enough for you. You want to keep more active and more in tune with like your body and stuff. You can sign up for like workout classes. You can even, I need to do a stretching class, like the stretch zone. That is just something on my bucket list I need to do. I want to do it in the off season, but just like improving yourself, although it's not necessarily related to contest prep, if that makes sense. So you can still, increase your flexibility. You can learn a new physical skill or anything like that. And I tried Pilates, by the way, last week. I don't like it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I hate it.
What happened?
It's so easy.
Was it?
Yeah, but here's the thing. I guess there's different levels, but whenever you don't know Pilates, you have to go in the beginner class. So to learn the terminology and all that. And it's just like, it's so easy. And then we would do things like, 10 body weight squats, and we have people in the class already out of breath and stuff. I'm like, what the heck is it? I'm like, geez. You should go to Orange Theory. Jeez.
Yeah. Maybe there's an advanced one that you can go to. But
yeah, I need to learn the terminology and stuff first, though. So it's like I'm physically able to, but it's just learning the knowledge of it. And it's kind of like I'm not a fan. It's not fast-paced enough for me.
Yeah.
But,
that's very zen for you, I think.
It's probably better than yoga, though. But it's just maybe, if anything, helps a little bit with the core strength, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be renewing my monthly, but I gave it a go. And
that's cool. Hey, you got to try things,
I got to try it, and maybe you guys will like it. I don't know, but that's just an example.
You know who does that stuff? Nikki does that stuff too.
Really?
She could probably put you through something. Probably something. That'd be fun to see. Like maybe they come up with a whole thing, the whole bikini bodybuilder Pilates thing. I don't know. Who knows?
The reformer thing, the little slidey. Do you know what I'm talking about? The slidey tray. That's fun. That's fun, though. It is fun, but it's just not, I guess, because I'm used to, like, our workouts, and I'm like, this is nothing.
Yeah. It is pretty, you are going from a pretty advanced, it's going to be hard to kind of replicate that. I could see that.
Yeah, so it's just like, okay, well, I don't know if that did anything, but it was relaxing, and, hey, maybe you'll like it.
Yeah.
And then I would also like to mention as well, another tip for balance in your life is just get rid of the all or nothing mentality. That's important. It's not all or nothing. There's gray areas. You don't have to be on and you don't have to be off, okay? And that's how we find the balance, is that basically that gray area, And then also another thing to do to help with balance is to check in with your coach regularly. Even if you're feeling fluffy, even if you cheated on your diet last weekend, gotta check in with your coach. Accountability. It's super important. And sometimes even seeing yourself, like in the photos and your measurements and your weight, that can be a wake-up call if you're going too far off. So I think that's important. Do you have any tips for balance as well?
I would say, honestly, more than anything, I think it comes down to just daily effort, really. And like to focus on it and to keep yourself accountable, to it as well, especially when you have those bad days and you don't just say to yourself, you don't justify it like, oh, well, I just needed that.
Yeah. I hate that.
That's, I hate it too. I really do. That's a common one. Like, oh, I just needed to have a whole day of just eating. And it's like usually justifying like a bad day, like a really bad day, not just like I ate a piece of pizza,
Yeah.
We're talking like, a whole pizza and donuts and like a whole thing. And they're like, my body just really needed it. And then they're up like, 6 pounds that week on their check-in, but they like it's almost like a preventative, it's like a counterattack to like.
It's rationalizing, I think.
Yeah. And it's like, instead of my coach saying, hey, like, why'd you do that? They like want to set you up as a reason. So you can't reply back as like, well, no, you didn't need it. Like, cause they're like, well, I needed it. So it kind of like justifies it.
Yeah.
But it's, so when you're not rationalizing it, and you're just keep yourself accountable and just say, hey, like I messed up that day. That wasn't balanced. That was just pure me wanting to eat, and not justifying it that way. I think that's important too, So with all things in life. And then I think look at the bigger goal and find the middle ground of where you really want to be. And also the other thing is I think we need to realize, especially when it comes down to balance in the off season of like eating, is your goal really to just eat whatever you want, like all the time, or are you just kind of sick of dieting, right? And I think that we kind of mix those two up. You yeah, I'm just tired of dieting. I'm just tired of going through this prep. It was really hard, it took a lot out of me. But do you really like want to like gorge that much? Or are you just kind of like tired of prep and you really just want to like something a little bit different, and I think that people will not even think about it, and they just feel like they're in this, chicken jail. and they're just like, okay, I'm out of chicken jail and I have to eat whatever I want. Like I have to do what everyone else is doing. I have to eat these crazy cookies because whoever ate them. I have to eat these crazy donuts that I've been seeing because whoever ate them. Like, and that's like the cool thing to do. And then I'm going to post about it and show off and everything on my Instagram and get a bunch of likes for eating this donut, and like get the, yeah, you deserve it in the comment section. And like, do you really want it? Or you just want like a bite, or do you just want a bite or taste of it? Or do you want 7, like what is it you really want? And are you just giving in to what people are kind of telling you and what the social influence is from watching others do these same things, right? Because it's kind of ran its course. It's not really that cool anymore to watch people like gorge on food and cheat after a show. It's kind of ran its course, just like we were talking about before, like the duck lip thing, like that kind of ran its course, and no one's doing those duck lip pictures anymore. Yeah, the whole being proud of eating like everything after the show and like posting pictures and crying, eating donuts or something because you're so happy. Yeah. Like it's kind of ran its course. Like we've seen it, So I mean,
if there's something that you've really been craving, have like a bite, have a little sample. You don't have to have the whole thing. I think that can definitely get the job done. Just that taste.
Yeah.
I have curious taste buds. Sometimes I'm like, I wonder what that tastes like. But have a bite and that's it. But we're all different. I think, if you're really craving something in the off season, there's a way to make it work within your plan. You just can't go overboard, right? That's what balance is all about.
Yeah.
Having to try those little things that you've been wanting to try. If you want to go out to eat with your family, whatever, but just do it in a smart way.
Yeah.
So that you're not going all out.
And I think, perfect example too. And if you got to be honest with yourself too. Like, do you really want it? And if you really want it and it's like a thing that's drawing you towards it all the time, then you should have that conversation with your coach, right? Even if your coach is me, like you should say, and say, hey, you know what? I've been doing this diet, but it's taking a lot out of me. I want to have a cheat meal once a week. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that I don't want to ever get those two things confused when I say these things, If you need a free meal once a week, generally what I'll do is I'll remove, like, let's say someone's eating 5 times a day. I'll remove the 5th meal for someone once a week and then give them like a 1,500 calorie free meal once a week. And they can do whatever they want with those 1,500 calories. I don't care what it is. And if that keeps you targeted, great. That's what you need for balance. Everyone needs something different, right? If you need a macro meal once a day where at dinner time with your family, you have to hit certain parameters of like, whatever, 25 grams, 30 grams of protein and whatever the case may be, 500 calories every single day, no problem. We can do that and put it on your plan. I feel like we can still live a very balanced lifestyle and not be so sacrificial on that and not eat and just chicken jail like we talked about, right? And you could do that. Honestly, most people, not all people, but most people, I would say like 80% of people could do that all the way into pretty much their last month of prep. Most of them, as long as you're cool in the off season. And I think if you have those things, you're going to be cool in the off season more than just being in chicken jail, right? The whole time. And then when you get out of chicken jail, you go right next door to the donut shop. That it's an interesting scenario that marketing of that donut shop right next to a jail, but seems to be a positive business model for them. So I think that's the thing too, is like again, we talk about finding your balance. What is your balance? And I think sometimes it happens the same way where the same thing happens in the opposite. When you get done with a show, you want to go and eat everything you want, right? Everything you've seen, everything you haven't been seeing, you're saving what they call food porn. You're saving donuts and this and that, and you're saving it all, and then you go and you want to eat all of it. But then when you prep, you go the opposite way. You're like, okay, now I can't have a single thing ever, and I'm only going to eat tilapia and asparagus, and if I eat any rice, it's going to be like rice cakes, the most suffering like carb possible or whatever, right? And so it's like, you could go the other direction, and then that makes the other direction even greater, and it's just like the teeter-totter you're talking about, right? Like teeter-totter.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, look at your history, look at your past. What is repeating? What's the thing that's common? And if we can, honestly, if we can get your guys' off seasons right and your life balance right, you competing is not going to be an issue. But if every single time you compete, you blow up and gain 30 pounds after a show because your in season is so strict that you're just instantly snapping to, fries and donuts and whatever, right? And then you go from being in a great relationship before you start prep to you're basically close to breaking up with your boyfriend every single time you do a show. You're not living very balanced. Like, you need to find that middle ground, right? You need to find what is going to work for you, because what's going to happen in the end is you're going to be, your boyfriend's going to break up with you year 3 or whatever of you're competing. You're going to say, this is too much because of your family is like, oh, she's competing again. I don't want to talk to her. Friends are going to be like, oh, she's competing again. She's not going to do anything with us, right? Boyfriend's done, you're by yourself, and then you didn't learn any balance in the off season. Now you're 40 pounds overweight and you gave up, you ran your course of competing and now you're done. So you're like, okay, now I'm, what did it get me? What was my discomfort at the end, right? Well, the discomfort at the end is I was 40 pounds overweight. I'm single. My friends don't talk to me. Find, that's the end result if we don't find this balance for everyone. That's a pretty common practice with these people who go so extreme. So you have to find your balance in season and off season and find where your holes are at, where are the holes in your life? Like, I'm glad that you talked about the mental, the family, the everything, and identify them and have real talks with your family, your friends, your significant others, and see where you need to kind of pick things up, I think that's important.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Good stuff. Does anybody have any questions before we end the podcast?
I think we should do is talk about the elephant in the room, which is your shoulders looking pretty,
that's an elephant.
Pretty cappy.
Oh yeah.
Looking pretty shoulder cappy here.
I've been trying.
Yeah, them shoulders are coming a little ways, Ashley.
Little baby noodles.
Just so you guys know that are watching on Instagram, this is not the new shoulder filter. That's actually what she looks like.
We're cooking the noodles. They're cooking the noodles. They're almost done.
Yes, they're past the al dente. Yeah. Is it al dente? Al dente?
Yeah.
Al dente stage. Yeah. You know what's funny? One time I was trying to order, what are those little skinny pancakes called?
Skinny pancakes?
The little tiny ones. Crepes. I was like, I saw it on the menu and it's like CREPES. And I was like, the crepes, I couldn't think of. I always forget about it. It was like the crepes. I was like, creeps. The guy's like, creeps. I was like, yeah, I want those. I want to try those. It was so funny. I was like, I'm so sophisticated, bro.
Definitely.
So, anyway, I guess no questions from you guys on Instagram, in the Instagram world? No? Okay. Well, then with that, guys, thank you so much. We are going to live our best balanced life this week and go right back to work.
I'm going to take my unicycle and just ride it all the way back to my office.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. You know what I saw yesterday? I saw skates that were one wheel that they used to have in the 1920s, I guess.
Really?
They had, basically, it was like one wheel, like a unicycle per foot, and it would attach to your shoe. And guys skated around on this one wheel, like small rubber, like bicycle tire.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. I wish I could find some of these. I'm actually going to look. Okay. I'm actually going to look for these and see if I can find them because those look pretty cool.
Okay.
It's funny they're all wearing like business shoes because like they didn't have sneakers then. They're all like attaching these and it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny because out here there's a skating rink we went to, and Floyd Mayweather owns the skating rink, which is pretty cool. I went there with Kimber the other day, and I was like, that'd be so dope to bring those to the skating rink.
That would be cool.
So anyway. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you later.